The state of the UK's political landscape has never been more precarious, and at the heart of the storm is Keir Starmer's Labour Party. It's becoming increasingly clear that Labour, under Starmer's leadership, is unravelling at an alarming rate. This isn't just a simple case of policy disagreements or minor internal squabbles. This is a full-blown crisis. Starmer has managed to do the unthinkable: alienate the very people who have supported Labour for decades. It's not just that Labour is hemorrhaging MPs. It's that the core of Labour's identity is crumbling, piece by piece, as Starmer pursues an agenda that betrays everything the party once stood for. The departure of key MPs, seasoned politicians who have dedicated their lives to Labour values, paints a grim picture of the party's future. When you see the likes of Milan Regilovic, a man who led Brocco Borough Council for over 20 years, walk away and condemn the party's drift to the centre, you realise how deeply Labour has lost its way. Regilovic's warning that Starmer's centrist direction is destroying local democracy is a damning indictment of Starmer's leadership and vision. Labour, traditionally the voice of the working class, has abandoned its roots, prioritising a middle-class electorate at the expense of its original base. The very essence of the party, the voice of the underdog, the champion of the working people, has been traded for political expediency. This is no longer just an internal squabble, it's a full-scale abandonment. Councils Labour has held for years are now slipping through their fingers. In Brocco, for example, Labour regained control in 2023 only to lose it again just months later. The loss of control over local councils isn't just about politics, it's about real people losing their voice. Schools, libraries, and community services that have been the lifeblood of local communities are now at risk, and Starmer seems indifferent. He is too busy trying to craft a credible image to the middle classes to remember that it's the working class voters who need Labour's protection most. Starmer's Labour is no longer for the people, it's for the elites. And yet, as Labour's internal implosion continues, Starmer's reckless approach to national security might just be the final nail in the coffin. Starmer's dithering on defence spending is nothing short of dangerous. The UK's relationship with the US, which has been the cornerstone of British foreign policy for decades, is now hanging by a thread. Starmer's failure to commit to increasing defence spending to the agreed NATO target of 2.5% GDP puts Britain's global standing and national security at risk. This is not just an issue of numbers, it's a matter of survival. Trump has already expressed his displeasure, and the US, one of our closest allies, is watching Starmer's every move. If Starmer doesn't get serious about meeting his commitments, he risks damaging decades of military cooperation. This is not a game, and it's not a time to be penny-pinching. The stakes are too high. But perhaps most frightening is that Starmer isn't just putting our national security at risk, he's also alienating his own MPs. Figures like Luca Kirst and Dan Carden are speaking out, warning that Starmer's failure to prioritise defence spending could have disastrous consequences for the UK's international standing. When members of your own party are publicly criticising your decisions, it's clear that things are falling apart. If that weren't enough, the Labour Party is now facing an existential crisis in the form of Ed Miliband's energy policies. Miliband, Labour's energy secretary, is pushing through measures that could cripple the country's energy infrastructure. His decision to block new North Sea oil and gas licenses might sound good in an eco-friendly vacuum, but it's nothing short of reckless. The potential loss of 40,000 jobs is just the beginning. Energy bills will rise, power cuts will become more frequent, and the UK will become more dependent on foreign energy sources, thus outsourcing our emissions and driving up costs. Miliband's policy could lead the UK into an energy crisis, one where everyday citizens are left to suffer the consequences. And all of this is happening while the Labour leadership dithers and fails to provide any coherent, practical solution to the country's energy needs. The economy will also feel the brunt of Miliband's energy policies. Large companies are already considering leaving the UK in search of more stable energy markets, and Miliband's insistence on shutting down domestic energy production will only drive them away. The UK's economy, already on shaky ground, will be further destabilised, and the people who will bear the brunt of this are the working-class citizens Labour is supposed to defend. Keir Starmer's Labour Party is a house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. His failure to lead, to unite his party, and to safeguard the country's interests is more than just disappointing. It's dangerous. Starmer's Labour is out of touch, indifferent to the very people who need it most, and incapable of offering the leadership Britain requires. If the Labour Party can't even keep itself together, how can it be trusted to lead the nation? The clock is ticking, and Starmer's time is running out. He must choose between saving the soul of Labour and securing the future of the country or continuing down this self-destructive path. The consequences of his inaction will be felt for generations. The question is, how much longer will we let him lead us down this disastrous road?